Hello, and welcome to Instant Insights, Global Data's strategic intelligence podcast. At Global Data Strategic Intelligence, we track over 100 tech, industry, ESG, and macro themes impacting all major sectors. I'm Stu Robarts, and today we're discussing Agentic AI, following the launch of ChatGPT's own AI agent last week. Agentic AI has been emerging as the next major iteration of the wider technology, with the promise of taking decisions to carry out complex tasks without the need for human input. Our guest is Chris Ashley, VP for Strategy at Peak, a company that's been using AI to help businesses deliver growth for over a decade now. So, Chris, thanks for joining us. I wonder if you could just begin by explaining what exactly Agentic AI is and how it differs to other forms of the technology.
Yeah, of course. Well, I think it's a transformational enhancement on traditional business systems and AI systems. So, agentic AI really refers to autonomous AI systems that are capable of planning, reasoning, adapting, and acting to achieve a specific goal or task. The reason I say this is a transformational evolution is because this really moves us away from historical forms of software that would be pretty deterministic in nature. You'd have to control the output of that software through very specific predetermined rules and parameters coded into the software. Whereas now, through the ability of large language models to operate as the brain of an agentic system, we have this capacity to work with agentic systems that operate more as collaborative workers that can operate with agency and help us to execute tasks within the work environment or within our daily lives as people and consumers.
Agentic AI has obviously hit a bit of a milestone with the launch of ChatGPT's own agent, which is obviously consumer facing rather than business facing. But how significant a milestone would you say that is?
I think it's an impressive capability. As far as I understand it, they've combined what was called Operator, their computer use agent, with their deep research agent to enable users to achieve fairly complex tasks, whether they're booking a flight or booking a restaurant, which seems to be the kind of trivialized use cases that often get marketed. But I think the opportunity to do far more sophisticated and complex tasks is definitely there. I think it's meaningful. I think within the industry, these general purpose agents are giving a window into the art of the possible for people en masse. And I think, some of the figures for ChatGPT specifically are astounding. I think I read this morning 2.5 billion prompts per day on the ChatGPT platform. So these general purpose agents have captured the consumer imagination and the zeitgeist AI moment. I think where I'm definitely interested is in that as a consumer, in these agents and the possibilities. I also really like to look at the specialized agents as well. I think they have the capacity to help us achieve really meaningful uplifts within business environments, which is really a lot of what I focus on day to day.
From that business perspective, Peak has obviously spent years working with businesses to help them grow or become more efficient or optimize their systems. What do you see as the main benefits for businesses in employing agentic AI?
Yeah, good question. I think that the core benefits are all focused around enhanced speed of decision making, enhanced scalability of decision making, and compound returns on investment. And what I mean by that is we're working with manufacturers, CPG companies, retailers around the world, and we're seeing specialized agentic capabilities being deployed now. And this can be within a manufacturing environment, agentic systems for quote pricing. So businesses that respond to really large volumes of quote requests from a customer base, often a complex basket of goods. These processes a couple of years ago would have taken 7, 8 hours to complete, really burdensome to grab all of the structured and unstructured data, analyze it, process it, package it into a quote response, send it back to a customer. We're now seeing agentic systems being leveraged where you can respond within minutes And the compound impact on that is obviously enormous. You're returning many, many tens of thousands of hours of time back into a commercial sales team that can focus on building relationships and grabbing more market share rather than having heads in spreadsheets analyzing complex data and responding to quote requests. And then margin impact. I mean, the margin impacts of these systems are absolutely enormous because of the compounding rate of return you get from the speed of response, and through the sophistication of leveraging machine learning tooling that the agent can use to simulate the optimal price point to respond as well. So within the enterprise, that's just one example. We're seeing exactly the same thing in scenario planning agents within supply chains. CPG companies that are able to model and simulate demand shocks, supply side volatility, service level infringements, and then figure out mitigatory plans within 15 minutes rather than days. And within retail environments, merchandising teams that are able to um, start to leverage agents that can help them model very granular stock decision making across very complex retail networks and distribution networks so they can maximize their working capital. And we're seeing impacts up to 15-20% working capital releases within retail environments. So I think it's transformative. I think we're still really, really early. So that, there's still a long way to go. But I think some of the early agentic capabilities we're seeing put into production are really, really impressive.
Yeah. And conversely, also, of course, there's a lot of talk around the risks of businesses employing AI and the things that have to be considered in doing so. Are
Hmm.
there any additional risks that may be unique to agentic AI specifically?
I think so, yeah. I think if at the heart of the benefit of agentic AI is the word agency. You're leveraging software systems that now have levels of autonomy that we've never witnessed before within software because they're no longer hard coded and deterministic. So I think that is both the major feature, but also can be a risk inevitably. I think what we spend a lot of time in boardrooms with a lot of leadership teams that are trying to get their heads around AI, generative, agentic, and what it means for them in the future of their business. I think what we often say is that agentic systems, AI agents, they're ultimately only as good as the tools that they use and the context in which they're grounded in. So what we mean by that is if you have poorly mapped processes within your business, if you have a lack of standardized data governance, if you have a lack of a governance model for the AI agents themselves to monitor the performance of those agents, then you're exposing yourself to heightened levels of risk by deploying these systems because they can obviously compound if you have a poorly mapped process and an agent is deployed to operate within the confines of your operational environment, but it doesn't understand the business logic or the decision logic with which historical decisions have been made, then it can compound that even further. Because if that isn't documented and if the agent doesn't have a comprehension of that, then it can compound the problems that come from not having process and data governance in place, potentially make mistakes. And obviously, within supply chain environments, within merchandising environments, commercial environments, those mistakes can be really costly. So what we constantly say to our customers is try and start small when you're thinking about testing an agentic capability. Try and work on a process that is really well documented in terms of data flows, in terms of the process and decision logic. Educate your teams, your leadership teams, your business teams, your technical teams on data literacy, AI, what agentic means, and build some muscle around what this means now for your business and for the future, and start that education program early. And then critical, enforce human in the loop interventions and governance within any agentic deployment and monitor that performance and kind of embrace the governance wrapped around that agentic system. And that way, by starting small, you can start to hopefully see the benefits, but also find where your processes or data may not quite capture all of the context required for the agent to optimize its performance. Um, So we talk a lot about controlled agency, and I think what I've just described sums that up. Controlled agency is how we need to think about specialized agents within the enterprise environment.
You've already touched a little on some of the use cases that you guys have seen. Are there any use
Hmm.
cases that you think might be good to provide us examples for businesses who may be considering agentic AI, perhaps within specific industries?
Yeah, I mean, my specialism really is in retail, CPG, and manufacturing, so inventory intensive environments. So some of the examples I've mentioned, quote pricing, markdown and promotions, S&OP, scenario planning, within the supply chain, merchandising. They're all areas where we're starting to see progress and interesting deployments that are driving business value. I think we're also seeing a lot of big uplifts in software development teams, within our own software development team, but our customers' software development teams and data teams. I absolutely love what some of the agentic IDEs are doing, the likes of Cursor and Windsurf. I love what the likes of Lovable and Replit are doing for enabling, basically no code, natural language prompting to build out web apps really quickly. All of that is creating a transformative moment within development to drive productivity and to democratize the ability for anyone to develop software. So I think development teams, that's a great area to start where you can get big productivity uplifts. I think we're seeing it in customer service, um, deploying agents that can help troubleshoot uh, typical problems that customers may encounter in a natural language interaction. I think that can give a lot of leverage to a customer service team and help scale the capability. I think in research in R&D, we're seeing amazing progress in all of the AI labs releasing deep research capability. Anthropic, Gemini, OpenAI, Perplexity, all of them have very impressive deep research capabilities that help teams, do what typically would have taken many weeks of research in often an hour. To help figure out new strategies or new areas of potential improvement for their business. Um, and then marketing, at the heart of a lot of the early stages of generative and LLMs being released out into the public sphere was around just generating new forms of text, image, video content. So I think we're seeing a lot of really impressive prototypes and capabilities being deployed into marketing teams to scour social media feeds to find latest trends and then automatically create, an MVP of a potential new marketing campaign that a team of professional brand experts and marketers can then get around and use that as their brainstorming tool to figure out their next major marketing campaign. So there's some of the other examples, probably more generally outside of my area of expertise, that I think we're seeing a lot of exciting development in.
Just a couple of last things to pick your brain with then. From Peak's perspective, as a company that's been employing AI for companies for so long now, how have you guys seen the evolution of AI and the emergence of different AI strands within relation to business? And how do you see that kind of future evolving, if you like?
Yeah, I mean it's been so fascinating over the last. I've worked in digital transformation for the last decade, but specifically AI with Peak AI for the last 6.5 years. And I think the evolution has been one of when I first started with Peak back in 2019. A lot of businesses were trying to wrestle with the idea of big data and how to build data lakes and data warehouses and supercharged analytics and business intelligence. And I think that's swiftly what Peak brought, and I think why a lot of people were interested in Peak at the time back then was we were representing machine learning, predictive capability, probabilistic decision making, and decision optimizations for pretty gnarly operational challenges, merchandising functions, supply chain functions, commercial and sales functions. Anyone that's worked in one of those environments in a mid-market or enterprise business knows how complex the processes are, the data, and the decision making that needs to be made on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. So I think Peak was early in the what we'd probably call machine learning for operational research, that kind of category, which then evolved into the category of software called decision intelligence. And Peak really led the forefront there. I think the major moment of evolution really was 2022, 2023, the launch of ChatGPT, which really brought generative AI onto the scene. And I think in many ways, the average individual, if you to ask them what AI means, they'd probably immediately represent some form of ChatGPT or generative AI in their minds. What I think is really interesting about this, and again, we have this conversation in many boardrooms, is back to the phrase I said earlier. Agentic systems, AI agents are only as good as the context they're grounded in, the business context, the business rules, the business logic, and the tools that they use. Now, I believe my perspective is that the cost of provisioning and building an AI agent will become highly commoditized and go to zero in the near future. And the way in which one business in their supply chain will differentiate versus their competitor, if they're both deploying AI agents into their supply chains, it will be in the context you're giving it, the unique proprietary data you can feed it, and in the tools you can provision to it, and how you then orchestrate all of that together. And some of those tools, I think, are going to be predictive tools. They're going to be decision intelligence tools. If you think about the most powerful agentic systems I've referenced so far, they're orchestrating a range of automation capabilities. They're orchestrating machine learning APIs and decision optimizers. They're orchestrating conversational agents and generative agents, and they're orchestrating all of that into an end-to-end agentic system that maps back to an operational process. And that, I think, is where we're now going to start to see really big lifts. And we're already seeing it with some amazing specialized agentic companies. But I think that will be the next couple of years. We're going to see amazing capabilities launched from UiPath, from other startups around the world that deploy these agentic systems that map back to difficult, complex business processes that will provide enormous uplifts in business performance. I think the next evolution from that, and we're already starting to see it in Grok 4 Heavy, we're already starting to see it in Reflection AI's Asimov system and a number of others, are these multi-agent systems. So rather than just leveraging general purpose agents like ChatGPT's very impressive agent, we'll start to see systems that have 10, 20, 30 agents all interacting together and collaborating together to work on really, really complex tasks. I'm personally really excited about that. I think this is where we'll see breakthroughs in science, in physics, on some of the world's hardest problems over the coming years. And so, as you can tell, Stu, I'm a techno optimist when it comes to a lot of these things. But I think there's a really exciting, next few years to look forward to with these systems.
Yeah, it's fascinating to hear. And just finally, I guess, from your perspective, is there anything you'd add about agentic AI or AI in general, I guess, for a business audience that perhaps we haven't touched on yet, or you think perhaps warrants mentioning?
I think the main thing is just the call to action, and the biggest observation I would say I consistently experience when engaging with businesses is just that there's so much frenetic change in the AI space at the moment, and you must experience this as well.
Yeah.
Every email, every radio program you listen to, um, TV, there's AI adverts. It's everywhere, and the frenetic pace at which all of the major AI labs and companies like UiPath and others are releasing amazing innovations is really fast paced. And I think as a business person, whether it's a small business or a giant enterprise, it's quite hard to keep pace with that rate of change. So I think I try and lean into that, and I try and really put a focus for your business, for your technical users within your business, for your commercial folk. Really place an emphasis on AI education. I think that is going to be really important from the board level down. I think it's going to be critical to help us figure out how to get the best out of these systems, how to collaborate with them effectively, how to augment our businesses and how to drive greater levels of productivity. I think it all starts with education and trying to get your head around what do these technologies even mean, and how can they help me in my day-to-day work life or personal life.
That's super. Thanks so much, Chris. I think that's all we've got time for now, but thanks so much for your insights. It's been absolutely fascinating listening to you.
Thanks, Stu. Really appreciate it.
Big thanks to Chris for joining us today and providing those insights. And thanks to you guys all for listening as well. From all of us at Global Data Strategic Intelligence, see you next time.